Listen, I'm not here to pump you up with empty words that evaporate the second this video ends. I'm here because somewhere between who you are and who you know you could be, there's a graveyard of half-started dreams, and you've been attending the funeral every single day. The psychologist Carl Jung spent his life studying what he called the shadow self, the parts of us we refuse to acknowledge. But here's what Jung discovered that most people miss. It's not our darkness we're running from, it's our light. We're terrified of what we're capable of, because capability comes with responsibility, and responsibility means we can't blame anyone else anymore. You know what nobody talks about? The relief of giving up. There's a strange comfort in surrender. When you stop trying, you stop failing. When you stop dreaming, you stop being disappointed. When you accept that this is just how things are, you finally get to rest. And that rest feels so good that you mistake it for peace. But it's not peace, it's resignation wearing peace's clothes. Think about this. You've spent more energy defending why you can't than it would have taken to discover if you could. You've invested more time explaining your limitations than exploring your capabilities. You've used more creativity building reasons to stay stuck than it would have required to get unstuck. The math doesn't lie. You're not lacking resources. You're lacking commitment. There's a concept in physics called inertia. An object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. But here's what's brutal about human inertia. The outside force that needs to move you. It's you. You're waiting for someone to push you, and you're the only one who can. You're both the immovable object and the unstoppable force, and you've been choosing immovable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't writing for an audience. He was reminding himself. Even emperors need to remember that the only thing standing between them and action is their own mind's permission. Right now, there are 7 specific ways you're lying to yourself about why your life hasn't changed. Not maybe, not possibly, definitely. These aren't theories. These are the exact patterns that keep people circling the same block for years, wondering why the scenery never changes. And I'm about to show you each one, not so you feel attacked, but so you finally see the cage you built and realize you're holding the key. Before we go further, hit that like button. Drop a comment with just 3 words. No more excuses. Share this with one person who's stuck in the same loop you are. Subscribe because we're building something here, a space where excuses come to die and lives come to start. Number 1. Potential without proof is just fantasy. The Dunning-Kruger effect shows us something fascinating. Incompetent people overestimate their abilities, while highly competent people underestimate theirs. But there's a third category nobody talks about. People who are obsessed with their potential but refuse to test it. They live in the beautiful space of "I could if I wanted to," never realizing that untested potential is just a sophisticated form of lying to yourself. You love talking about what you're going to do. You've got plans, ideas, visions. You can describe your future business in detail. You can explain exactly how you'll transform your body. You can outline the book you'll write, the career you'll build, the life you'll create. You're fluent in the language of someday. But here's your addiction. Potential feels better than proof. As long as it stays in your head, it stays perfect. The business can't fail if you never launch it. The book can't get rejected if you never write it. The dream can't disappoint you if you never chase it. You get to keep your identity as someone capable of great things without ever having to face whether that's actually true. This is why you research endlessly but never start. Why you plan meticulously but never execute. Why you wait for perfect clarity before taking imperfect action. You're not preparing. You're hiding. You're not being strategic. You're being scared. And you've dressed up your fear in the respectable clothes of being thorough. Meanwhile, someone else, someone with half your talent and twice your courage, just launched the imperfect version of what you've been perfecting in your mind. They're getting real feedback while you're getting imaginary praise. They're learning what actually works while you're theorizing about what might work. They're building proof while you're protecting potential. The gap between who you think you are and who you actually are gets wider every day you don't test yourself. That gap fills with fantasy, and fantasy is comfortable until you realize you've been living in a simulation of your own life instead of your actual life. You don't need another course. You don't need another book. You don't need more time to think about it. You need to do something, anything, that produces a result you can measure. Not a feeling, not a plan, a result, because results are the only truth that matters, and right now your results are screaming that your potential means nothing without proof. Start ugly, start small, start scared, but start with something that creates evidence of your existence beyond your own imagination. Stop being a museum of unrealized potential and become a laboratory of tested capability. Number 2, being busy doesn't mean moving forward. The British historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson discovered what's now called Parkinson's Law. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. But there's a corollary nobody mentions. Busy work expands to fill the space where real work should be, and we let it, because busy feels productive even when it produces nothing. You're moving. I see you. You're busy, active, always doing something. Your calendar is full. Your to-do list is long. You're in constant motion, and motion feels like progress. So you've convinced yourself you're making progress. But are you actually getting anywhere, or are you just traveling in increasingly complex circles? Check your last month. How much of your activity actually moved you toward what matters? How much was just organizational theater, rearranging your workspace, reorganizing your files, researching tools, comparing options, optimizing systems that don't exist yet? How much time did you spend getting ready to get ready? This is the sophisticated trap. You're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're actively engaged. But you're engaged in everything except the one thing that would actually change your situation. You're watering the leaves instead of the roots, polishing the car that never leaves the garage, sharpening tools you never use. The entrepreneur spends months designing the perfect logo, but never talks to a single customer. The aspiring writer spends weeks setting up their writing environment, but never writes a paragraph. The person wanting to get healthy researches every diet and workout plan, but never breaks a sweat. They're all moving, none of them are progressing. Here's how you know the difference. Progress is measurable and uncomfortable. Motion is visible and comfortable. Progress requires you to face your inadequacy. Motion lets you feel productive without being vulnerable. Progress puts you at risk of failure. Motion keeps you safe in the illusion of momentum. You attend workshops but don't implement. You consume content but don't create. You network but don't build. You learn but don't apply. You're choosing education over execution because being a student feels safer than being judged as a practitioner. The brutal question: if you removed all the activity that doesn't directly produce results, what would be left? How much of your work is actually work, and how much is elaborate avoidance dressed up as productivity? Because the hours you spend in motion without progress are hours you're stealing from your own future. Stop counting tasks completed and start counting outcomes created. Stop measuring how busy you are and start measuring how much closer you are to what actually matters. The scoreboard doesn't care how hard you worked. It only shows whether you scored. If you're ready to stop the busy work, comment. Results matter. Number 3. Your past self doesn't own your future. The human mind has what neuroscientists called an interpreter, a part of our brain that constantly creates narratives to explain our behavior, even when those narratives are complete fiction. We're not discovering who we are. We're constantly authoring who we are, and most of us keep writing the same chapter over and over. You walk around saying, "I'm just not a morning person," or "I'm not good with money," or "I'm not the type who exercises," like these are genetic facts written into your DNA. But they're not. They're sentences you said once that became comfortable, so you kept repeating them until they calcified into identity. Here's the thing about identity. It's the most sophisticated excuse you have, because it doesn't sound like an excuse. When you say, "I can't do that because it's not who I am," it sounds like self-awareness. It sounds like honesty. It sounds like you're just being realistic about your nature, but what you're actually doing is using your past behavior as a prison for your future possibility. Every addiction recovery program knows this secret. You can't change behavior until you change identity. An alcoholic who says, "I'm trying not to drink," still identifies as a drinker who's resisting. But someone who says, "I don't drink," has changed their identity, and behavior follows identity like a shadow follows light. You've been running the same personality software for so long, you think it's your operating system, but it's not. It's just a program you got used to running. "I'm shy" means, "I've been practicing shyness so long it feels natural." "I'm not disciplined" means, "I haven't built discipline because I keep choosing immediate comfort." "I'm bad at that" means, "I haven't invested the time to get good at that." The problem isn't your identity. The problem is, you think your identity is permanent. You've confused familiarity with fate. You've mistaken patterns for personality. And every day you introduce yourself using the same limiting labels. You're signing a contract with yourself to stay exactly who you've been. But here's what most people never realize. You can just stop. You can stop telling that story. You can stop reinforcing that identity. You can wake up tomorrow and decide that the person you were yesterday doesn't get a vote on who you are today. Not through affirmations or vision boards or positive thinking, but through different actions that create different evidence. Identity isn't what you believe about yourself. It's what you prove to yourself through behavior. You want to be disciplined? Stop saying you're going to be disciplined and just do one disciplined thing. Then another. Then another. Do it enough times and your brain stops seeing it as an exception and starts seeing it as evidence. Evidence becomes pattern. Pattern becomes identity. The story you're telling about yourself isn't protecting you. It's limiting you. Every time you use "I'm just," or "I've always been," or "I'm the type of person who," you're building walls disguised as descriptions. You're not being honest about who you are. You're being loyal to who you were. Stop introducing yourself using your limitations as credentials. Stop defending your weaknesses like they're features instead of bugs. Stop narrating your life using the same tired character description and start writing a different story through different choices. Type this affirmation below if you're ready to change. I rewrite myself daily. Number 4. Deciding once beats thinking forever. Researched extensively by psychologists shows that having too many options doesn't liberate us, it paralyzes us. But here's the deeper issue. We've turned even simple decisions into ongoing debates with ourselves, keeping every door open because closing a door feels like loss, not realizing that keeping everything open means going nowhere. Watch how you make decisions. You don't make them, you entertain them, you consider them, you weigh them, you revisit them. You keep them warm as possibilities while never committing to any of them as realities. You treat your life like a restaurant menu you're constantly reviewing but never ordering from. I'm thinking about starting that business. Translation: I'm keeping it as an option while doing nothing about it. I might go back to school. Translation: I like the idea of it more than the commitment to it. I should probably start working out. Translation: I've created the illusion of intention without the substance of decision. Real decisions don't sound like maybes. They don't live in the future tense. They don't come with escape clauses and contingencies. Real decisions sound like, I'm doing this, not I'm going to, not I want to, not I should, just I am. Present tense, declarative, done. You know why you can't commit? Because commitment means accountability. Once you declare something, you're responsible for whether it happens. But as long as you're considering it or planning it or working toward it, you can never fail because you never really tried. You've discovered the perfect protection from disappointment, perpetual deliberation. Here's what happens when you treat decisions like negotiations. Nothing. Time passes. Opportunities close. Other people who made actual decisions lap you while you're still weighing options. And then you look back and realize you didn't choose not to do it. You just never chose to do it, which produces the same result, but lets you avoid responsibility. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Every day you spend deliberating is a day you're not living. Every hour you spend weighing options is an hour you're not building anything. Every moment you spend keeping doors open is a moment you're not walking through any of them. The successful entrepreneur didn't have more certainty than you when they started. They just decided and dealt with consequences. The person in the relationship you admire didn't have guarantees. They just committed and built from there. The person who changed their life didn't have clarity on every step. They just made a declaration and figured it out as they went. Stop conducting feasibility studies on your own life. Stop running endless cost-benefit analyses on whether you should try. Stop treating every choice like it needs a committee vote. Make a decision, a real one. Then honor it with action instead of reconsidering it with doubt. Your indecision isn't careful planning, it's camouflaged cowardice. Your need to keep your options open isn't strategic flexibility, it's commitment phobia. Your habit of seeing how things go isn't patience, it's passivity dressed in wisdom's clothing. Decide, then move. Don't decide and wait. Don't decide and plan more. Don't decide and gather more information. Decide and act. Because a decision without action is just a wish with delusions of grandeur, and wishes don't change anything except how disappointed you feel when they don't come true. Number 5. Nobody's coming to save you. In research on learned helplessness, psychologists discovered that even when obstacles are removed, subjects who've been conditioned to believe they can't escape often won't even try. They've internalized their limitations so deeply that they need permission to be free, never realizing that permission is the cage itself. You're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay, for someone to validate your readiness, for someone to grant you access, for someone to say, yes, you can do this. You're standing at doors that aren't even locked, waiting for someone to hand you a key you don't need. Who are you waiting for? A boss to recognize your talent, a partner to support your dream, a parent to finally approve, a friend to validate your decision, society to give you clearance, the universe to send a sign. You've turned your life into an endless waiting room, sitting patiently for your name to be called by someone who isn't coming. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Nobody is coming to give you permission. Not because they don't care, but because they're not responsible for your life. Not because they don't believe in you, but because their belief isn't required for your action. Not because they want to hold you back, but because moving forward was never their job. It's yours. You learned this permission-seeking behavior young. You raised your hand in school and waited to be called on. You asked if you could use the bathroom. You needed signatures and approvals and authorization. And somewhere along the way, you internalized the idea that everything requires permission from someone else before you can proceed. But you're not in school anymore. There's no teacher. There's no principal. There's no authority figure whose approval you need to chase your dreams, start your business, change your career, end that relationship, move to that city, write that book, create that art, live that life. The person who started the company you admire didn't wait for permission, they just started. The artist whose work moves you didn't wait for validation, they just created. The leader who inspired change didn't wait for authority, they just led. They understood something you're still learning. Permission is a cage we lock ourselves in while holding the key. You want to know what's wild? The people you're waiting to give you permission, they're waiting too. They're waiting for someone to validate them. They're waiting for clearance they don't need. They're trapped in the same cycle, which means you're waiting for permission from people who haven't given themselves permission either. Epictetus understood this better than anyone. No man is free who is not master of himself. You're enslaved to other people's opinions. You're chained to their validation. You're imprisoned by their approval. And the cruelest part? They didn't put you there, you did. Stop asking if you can and start declaring that you will. Stop seeking validation and start creating value. Stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself. Stop looking for green lights and become your own green light. The permission you're seeking doesn't exist outside you, it only exists inside you. And the moment you give it to yourself, you'll realize you've had it all along. You just needed to stop asking and start acting. If you believe it, declare it in the comments. I am enough. Number 6. Knowing without doing is worthless. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard wrote something that cuts through every self-help book ever written. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. But there's a third way he didn't mention, to understand the truth completely and do absolutely nothing about it. You know what you need to do. Don't pretend you don't. You've read the books, you've watched the videos, you've listened to the podcasts, you've attended the seminars, you've consumed enough information to transform 10 lives, yet your one life remains exactly the same. You're not ignorant, you're informed and inactive, which is actually worse. Information has become your drug of choice. It gives you the hit of feeling productive without the discomfort of actually producing anything. You finish a book about building wealth and feel wealthy for a moment. You complete a course on fitness and feel fit temporarily. You watch a video about discipline and feel disciplined briefly. Then the feeling fades, and instead of acting, you consume more information to get another hit. This is the trap of intellectual understanding without embodied action. You think knowing equals doing. You believe awareness creates change. You assume that once you understand something deeply enough, transformation will happen automatically. But your life isn't a math problem that solves itself once you understand the equation. It's a canvas that stays blank until you pick up the brush. Here's what separates people who transform from people who just know about transformation: implementation. Not perfect implementation, not flawless execution, just messy, imperfect, stumbling forward action based on what they know. They don't wait until they understand everything. They act on what they understand right now and learn the rest by doing. You've turned learning into a hiding place. As long as you're still learning, you don't have to perform. As long as you're still preparing, you don't have to produce. As long as you're still researching, you don't have to risk. But this game has a shelf life, and that expiration date is approaching faster than you think. The irony is brutal. The information you needed to change your life. You had it years ago. Everything since then has been intellectual stalling. You don't need more knowledge. You need the courage to apply the knowledge you already have. You don't need more strategies. You need to execute the basic strategies you've been avoiding. You don't need more understanding. You need more action. Stop going back to the bookstore when you haven't implemented what's already on your shelf. Stop enrolling in new courses when you haven't completed the last 3. Stop searching for better information when you haven't used the good information you already have. You're not lacking wisdom, you're lacking willingness. The gap between what you know and what you do is where your life is disappearing. Every day that gap exists, you're proving that information without implementation is just entertainment. You're collecting knowledge like trophies while your life remains a museum of potential instead of a gallery of results. Take one thing you learned this year, just one principle, one strategy, one insight, and actually live it for 30 days. Not learn more about it, not refine your understanding of it. Live it, breathe it, make it real through action, because understanding that never becomes behavior is just sophisticated ignorance wearing a graduate degree. Number 7. Comfort is killing your spirit. The existential psychologist Rollo May spent his career studying what he called the anxiety of non-being, the feeling that you're not actually living, just existing. His conclusion was devastating. We don't fear death as much as we fear living without meaning. Yet we spend most of our lives choosing comfort over meaning, then suffering from the emptiness that choice creates. Look at your life. Really look at it. How many of your daily decisions are designed to avoid discomfort? You don't have the difficult conversation because it might be awkward. You don't pursue the opportunity because it might be uncertain. You don't end the wrong relationship because loneliness might be painful. You don't start the new venture because failure might be embarrassing. Your entire life has become an elaborate architecture built around one principle: avoid discomfort at all costs. And it's working. You're comfortable. You wake up in a comfortable bed. You go to a comfortable job. You maintain comfortable relationships. You engage in comfortable hobbies. You hold comfortable opinions. You make comfortable choices. Everything is comfortable. So why do you feel like you're suffocating? Because humans aren't designed for comfort. We're designed for challenge, for growth, for struggle that leads somewhere, for discomfort that builds something. When you remove all friction from your life, you don't create peace, you create numbness. You don't find happiness, you find hollowness. You don't achieve satisfaction, you achieve sterility. The feeling you can't name, that quiet desperation, that vague dissatisfaction, that sense that something's missing, that's not depression. That's your soul screaming that you're wasting your life playing it safe. That's your potential suffocating under the weight of your comfort. That's your spirit dying from underuse. Every great feeling you've ever had come from discomfort. The pride of accomplishment? That came from struggling through something hard. The joy of connection? That came from being vulnerable enough to be seen. The satisfaction of growth? That came from pushing past what you thought you could handle. Comfort gives you nothing worth remembering. Discomfort gives you everything worth living for. You've become so skilled at avoiding pain that you've accidentally avoided life. You've optimized for ease and wondered why nothing feels meaningful. You've chosen safety and questioned why you feel so stuck. You've prioritized comfort and asked why you feel so dead. Here's what nobody tells you. The discomfort you're avoiding isn't your enemy. It's the admission price to everything you actually want. Want a better body? It costs discomfort. Want a successful business? It costs discomfort. Want deep relationships? It costs discomfort. Want personal growth? It costs discomfort. Want to feel alive? It costs discomfort. There is no version of a meaningful life that doesn't require you to regularly do things that feel uncomfortable. You can't negotiate with this. You can't hack your way around it. You can't find the comfortable path to an uncomfortable destination. The bridge between who you are and who you want to be is built entirely out of things you don't want to do. And the longer you avoid walking across it, the longer you stay trapped on the wrong side. Stop trying to eliminate discomfort from your life. Start strategically choosing which discomfort you're willing to embrace. Stop asking, "How can I avoid this?" Start asking, "What would this make possible?" Stop running from the hard thing. Start running toward it, understanding that the hard thing is the only thing that will make you feel human again. Your comfort zone isn't a sanctuary, it's a slow-motion suicide. And every day you choose it over growth, you're choosing numbness over aliveness, safety over significance, existence over living. The question isn't whether you'll experience discomfort. The question is whether you'll experience the productive discomfort that builds something or the silent discomfort of a life unlived. Let everyone see your commitment. Type below, "I choose growth." So, here's where we are. You've just heard 7 mirrors reflecting exactly how you've been lying to yourself. Not theories, not possibilities, the actual mechanisms keeping you trapped while you convinced yourself you were waiting for the right time. You've been fooling yourself into thinking tomorrow will be different while doing exactly what made today the same as yesterday. But this stops now, not eventually, now. You don't need more motivation. You need different action. You don't need more information. You need implementation. You don't need more time. You need more honesty about how you're using the time you have. You don't need better circumstances. You need better choices within your current circumstances. Everything changes the moment you stop waiting for everything to change and start changing anything. One decision, one action, one uncomfortable step forward. That's all it takes to break the pattern you've been stuck in. Not someday, today. Before you close this video, do 3 things that prove you're different now. First, hit that like button as evidence you're done negotiating with mediocrity. Second, comment below with the specific action you're taking today, not what you're thinking about or planning to do, but what you're actually doing today. Third, share this with someone who needs to stop lying to themselves, and subscribe to this channel, because we're building a community of people who are done with excuses and ready for results. Your life is happening right now. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. And every second you spend defending why you haven't started is a second. You're choosing comfort over change. Stop defending, start doing. Make it official. Drop this in the comments. I start now.